What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing a spoiler-free review of What the Waters Left Behind Scars. It's a sequel from the original, and I got some thoughts on it, so let's talk about it. So yeah, I hadn't heard of this film before, and I actually wanted to be able to talk about it by comparing it to the original film, which is just What the Waters Left Behind. Came out in 2017, and this is the sequel to it. Now, a little bit about the original film, because I want to kind of explain it to you guys. The original film is actually set in a place in Argentina called Villa Epecuén, which is a town that was like submerged for like 25 years underwater. There was a flood one day, the waters rose and just literally wiped out the town. It sort of, dissipated after many years and kind of started to resurface, and it kind of left a spooky kind of vibe when you looked at all the buildings that were crumbled and caved in, and just kind of this broken up city that used to be a once bustling town. Now, the first movie was actually directed by Luciano Onetti and Nicholas Onetti, who I'm assuming are related. They actually worked together on that movie, and I actually kind of liked the movie in some regards, but I also felt like it paled against a lot of horror that it was trying to mimic in some regards. The original movie was a little bit about this group who was doing a documentary. They come into town and they get off the beaten trail and end up in the Villa Epecuén, and they start getting brutally murdered. The sequel is pretty much the same sort of setup in a way, but with a different group, and it's like a band that is touring and they get brought to this town. The original movie, I felt like, is shot really well, but the one thing that kind of bothered me was that a lot of the gore was like off camera, and you kind of saw after effects, so like the practical effects of what it looked like afterwards, but not in the act of, which kind of took away from it, from my opinion, because it's a movie that is kind of relying on something that's like a wrong turn or a backwoods slasher, as they would call it. Definitely Texas Chainsaw inspired in some regards, but for Argentina. But as good as it looked, and as some of the characters were good looking, it just didn't really have the extra oomph that I was kind of hoping for. It is a little bit more mean-spirited, the first movie, than this new one, but I feel like this new one is better in some regards too. So they both have good things that I think you may or may not like. If you're into that backwoods slasher thing, you might want to check out the first one and then watch this one, although I think you could just watch this one without any concern about the first one. It's loosely connected, but same characters and stuff. It just doesn't really tie the two together. Well, sort of, but I'm just kind of giving you an idea. Now, with What the Waters Left Behind Scars, this one is like going for a little bit more edgier, a little bit more genre stylistic kind of thing going on with it. As I mentioned, the first film was very good looking. This one is about a band called the Ravens who are on tour, and they are going through Argentina in this small kind of podunk town that has like a single bar. They meet up with a girl, they go back to this place, and of course the killing begins. Now, the backdrop for this movie wasn't so much of using the town like the first one was. This one sort of just gets right into the meat and potatoes of the family that is involved, and I think that in some ways kind of makes this movie flow a little bit better than the first one, which the first one has a little bit more slasher elements than this one. This is more of like the family of Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of sitting down for dinner kind of movie. This one isn't as mean-spirited as the first one. The first one has a lot of like really graphic sexual stuff kind of going on. Nothing like too bad. Like you can't really see all that much, but there is an element of sex there. This has a little bit of that too, but I think that this one is a little bit more toned down in the R department, if you know what I mean, because there is some sexual assault in here. So just to put it plainly for those of you who may be triggered by these movies, but this one is much more toned down. It still looks good. The characters and the actors characters and stuff were pretty decent. You kind of get to know the family a little bit more, which is nice. I liked the band that was in it, and they have kind of a much better soundtrack. It's a hybrid mix of like singing and metal. This one is also directed by just Nicolas Onetti, who has done other films before, like the 100 Candles Game. And he also did this new sci-fi movie, which I wouldn't mind checking out, called The Last Boy on Earth. Visually, I'd say sci-fi would probably work very well with Onetti because he has, like, the coloring and stuff in this movie is really good. I really like it, actually, because it makes everything sort of pop color-wise, and sort of the darker greens and browns and stuff kind of make it look real dingy and stuff. But this one is just slightly better just because it flows better than the first film. But if you do like these sort of backwoods, I'm gonna go eat people kind of movies, this might not be so bad. Just don't expect to see in-camera gore where, you know, people are like getting, you know, stabbed in the head, or sort of an afterthought in some regards. And if you can kind of look past that and you don't really care about gore, I think the stories for these, you know, as slim as they are, because they're really just put group of people in situation of this family and bad things happen kind of territory. It's not that thick of a story, but story-wise, it kind of flows a little bit better in this one, I think. Like I said, I like the characters in this one a little bit more. They are speaking English more in this movie. Not that that really mattered to me. Most of the language is Spanish. Some of the graphic bits in this one are a little bit more toned down, but I really didn't mind that so much. Like the first movie, there was scenes of sexual assault that, you know, they kind of have the camera off a little bit, but you see the body kind of going at it, you know, which is kind of tasteful in some regards, I guess some would say. But this one kind of like just kind of cuts that out a little bit. Although there is one scene in particular that you will notice in here, that one of the main stars is having a good time in the back of a bus. Not so much sexual assault, by the way. But yeah, I don't know. This one feels a little bit more smoother. I'm not really kind of blown away by either of these films, but it wasn't too bad to watch. I was kind of hoping that this one be a step up from the first one, and I definitely think it is. So if you did like the first one, I think you might like this one for different reasons than maybe you like the first one. It is kind of up in the air as to what, but overall, I think I had a much better enjoyment. The acting, the camera work, and all this was just felt like it worked a little bit better in this movie. Like if I was to give the first one a score, like a 5 out of 10. This one I would say like a 5.5, maybe even a 6 out of 10. Keep your expectations low. There is no in-camera gore, even though people do get killed. There is blood. And there is some mean-spirited stuff in this film that might trigger some people. But ultimately, I just kind of like the characters in it and the way it was shot. It looks really good. And of course, the setting is fantastic because I don't think I've ever seen another set like that other than Alone in the Dark with Christian Bale, or what was it, Black Rain or something like that, where everything was underwater. So, you know, it's very rare to see that kind of thing. They aren't really in the water in this one. So, but yeah, seeing cities submerged in the backdrop a little bit is going to be a little bit more significant in the first one, while this one is sort of like where their house is. MVD sent me this one out. I did get to check out the extras on this one. This one's not as loaded with features or anything like that. There isn't even a commentary track or anything like that, but it does have the Cleopatra's films, like other movies that they've done, like Baphomet and quite a few others, and there are a lot of the trailers and such. But this is put out by MVD Visual, which is MVD Entertainment Group, and they put this out as like part of distribution, I think. They sent this to me. Thank you very much for sending me out to see this. It took me a while to get this out. This came out on the 11th, technically, of this month, so I am a little bit behind, but I did have to watch the other one and rent that one up just to make sure I followed up with this one. There's no real special extras in here. It just looks nice. But yeah, if you've seen the first one, let me know. If you haven't seen the second one or curious about it, definitely a little bit of a step up. Nothing like fantastic here overall for either of the movies, but I think there is potential here. There is a base that I could see this director doing more and more later on. But if I had one particular gripe, and this is just my personal taste, I want to see some gore, like some extra gore, you know. I feel like these like Wrong Turn and have that extra bit of gore, and it really elevates the film a little bit more, but I think it would elevate it to give it just that extra punch in my particular taste. But again, it is a good looking film. I love the set. I would like to see more from this director in the future, but overall, I just, you know, 5.5 for this one, about a 5 for the other one out of 10. But who knows, maybe this is something that you'll like more than me. That often happens. I'm not the taste maker, you know. Sometimes I like stuff that you won't like, and you will like stuff that I don't like. But, you know, I hope I can help you come to a conclusion that might make you interested in a film that you've never seen before. You can pick this up. I'll put some links down below. It's like 20 bucks online, so just check it out if you'd like to pick up a copy. But other than that, thank you so much for coming by. I got more on the way. We got another review of Magic Cop coming up here shortly, so just be on the lookout for that. The algorithm here on YouTube has been fucking killing me, so if you guys hear me talking about this, please share this video with somebody, because it really does help me to get the numbers to reach more people like yourself. Thanks for coming by, and as always, long live the void.